Few things. Respectfully, that's bat crazy. Everything you just said. Respectfully.
Immigration is a big issue from us because the system is really not working for anybody.
Thanks to, like I said, people like you, thanks to all this independent media, we could get the truth. And through corporate media, they've been lying to us for years, and we finally can see what's really going on. They can't hide it because you're going straight to the people.
You know, you guys, it's not even like watching news. It's just watching truth, you know. It's just watching, like, not just speaking truth to power, but speaking truth to people.
Bernie Sanders won Nevada. As I said, there's no way around it. He absolutely won.
Here to go back to
Saudi Arabia. And I've been here my family well before the Civil War. I had two brothers fighting Iraq. And they told me that they don't have a problem with my religion because that's what they fought for, was the freedom of America.
Just that, just holding up, taking it one day at a time, just one day at a time. As you can see, we just got through the holiday, so it's definitely, her presence was definitely missed, so yeah.
And even here in Cleveland, there were people who, even some of these progressives were saying they weren't going to go to the Browns games because some of the players said they would kneel.
Tell me, what do you think? Do you think that's right? No. So what are you gonna do?
The man turned and saw me there recording his racism that he was displaying right out in the open, and he lunged at me in attack.
No, talking to this guy here. Okay.
My knees were skinned, my elbows, my arm. The phone itself was completely, absolutely destroyed.
Just stopping us,
BLMs come in here and try to rip the flag and stuff. They threw paint on it.
The ideology of Antifa just attacked us.
Yeah.
The ideology,
you know, the fake Antifa that Joe Biden says?
There's also a personal aspect for me. My mother worked here for 24 years. She was the residency coordinator of the neurology department, and this used to be a fantastic place.
The government's giving more help to the Fortune 500 companies than the corner grocery store.
Because we have a shortage of hospitals, or hospitals are closing all over the country, in rural areas and also in our urban areas, and it is immoral in every single way.
Talking about shutting down a major hospital and converting that property into hotels or condos or some other real estate opportunity.
If we had Medicare for all, it wouldn't be happening, period. That's just the end of the story.
You're factually wrong. The state legislature is Republican. What I don't understand is you keep saying they're going to have to recount it because there's fraud, but you can't actually explain where the fraud is, what the fraud is.
Yeah, exactly. I can't, but there's a lot of fraud going on.
No, we give a about you, Trump says. It has nothing to do with me. I give a about you. They don't give a about you.
Why to you is it such an infringement on freedom to wear a mask? That's what I'm asking.
It's annoying as hell, that's right.
Is it more annoying than death? But they have tried to ban transgenders from the military, other restrictions, employment discrimination against transgenders.
Well, that has stopped now since the Supreme Court ruling.
Right, but President Trump is the one who instituted it.
Right, but he was opposed to people joining the military for the sole purpose of being funded for sex change therapy. You know,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Was following me outside. Was following me outside. I have credentials. I can show it to you. Is this how you treat the press? Do you see what's going on here? And then somebody came up to my cameraman without saying a word and just ripped his press thing off.
Look, man, I'm not happy at all. $600 million is not enough, because how do you put a price tag on my kids' brains, their organs, my heart, you know, like all of the stuff that's happened because of this, the layered trauma, the deaths. There's literally no way to put a dollar sign on it.
Can you answer people 6 years later, is the water back to normal here?
Absolutely not.
The DNC just reached out to all the other candidates, and they pretty much just
conspired to support Joe Biden. And I mean, just intervening with the democratic process.
The brotherhood is great, but we have something we're fighting for. That's why I joined the Proud Boys. So like, the brotherhood is great, but I joined it because I wanted to beat up some commies, man. Like.
So we started to shut down city councils every single Wednesday for about close to 3 years on issues concerning houseless.
Black Lives Matter wants to eliminate police because actually the founders, if you read their page, they claim to be 3 lesbian separatists who hate black men. If you remove the police, they hate the nuclear family and they don't like heterosexuality.
Depressed. There's no other way to feel. There's no other way to feel except depressed, except angry, except upset, except not surprised. Unfortunately.
The live stream earlier, it was completely peaceful. People were blowing bubbles, people were squeaking rubber ducks. Absolutely peaceful. So you're the head of Proud Boys, you're from Florida. Chairman, okay. So what do you think about this event? Like, what was your goal here?
Our number one goal was really to get, and we could see it right behind you guys, really to get the police to do their job and to offer them the tools in order to get them to do their job. Now they have the ability to use CS gas, which is really important to us.
It's time that we get resources that we need. It's time that I get a full-time nurse at my school. It's time that I get a full-time counselor and resources in my community.
And the invisible prison of wealth inequality in itself that you talk about all the time. Why would Rachel Maddow ever, get out with a camera and microphone and put herself into that?
Chris Smalls is leading the march. Chris Smalls was an Amazon worker in Staten Island, New York, who was fired for trying to organize for safety.
He got rid of illegal, what's it called? He deported more people than any other president. And Trump
Prior to him, yeah.
Yeah, so Trump is a good old boy. Like, he just loves America, and he's not into identity politics. I'm not,
It's about the lives that are forever changed by these fires.
Poisoning the news that we are fed with those tainted sources. All we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo. To oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the stream today. I'm Colin. I'm taking over for today because Jordan, like I said, he's out for his anniversary vacation and much needed time off. And Jen is dealing with some background stuff, so I'm going to fill in for today. We'll see how this goes. This is my first time doing a stream, so yeah, we'll just sort of play it by ear. If you guys haven't already, make sure you smash that like button. The more people that like this stream, the more people that will see it on YouTube. YouTube does a lot of shenanigans in the background, but liking and sharing this sort of forces it out there to people. So if you can, please like and share it. So we have a couple topics we're going to be talking about today. 3 specifically. We're going to be talking about Abbot, Greg Abbot briefly, and then Biden with him declaring Indigenous Peoples Day, but also how he's being hypocritical about that a bit. And then lastly, the whole shenanigans going on with Activision Blizzard. If you guys don't follow video games or any news like that, it doesn't matter, because this is basically a carbon copy of what you see in the actual industry and in politics and stuff like that. It even includes a former Bush official in it. So excited to get to that. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Colin. I am usually the editor / graphics and producer and any other various random things that might come up. And I'll be your manager today. Must have changed. Thank you for the $9.99 super chat. That map with the Status Coup flags really highlights how much they've done with just a few people. I agree. This map right here. This is mostly Jordan and Jen with rotating essentially camera people and stuff like that. Yeah, I agree. This is very good representation of where Status Coup has been. And speaking of Status Coup going places, I'll be going to join Jordan for a 1-week trip over to cover the recent mayoral election in Buffalo, as well as the Starbucks strikes that are happening there. So that'll be super exciting. If you guys want to help support that and future things, we do have a member drive going on right now where you can get free t-shirts. Sorry, my cat is being a thing. T-shirts, postcard, different things like that. Just for becoming a member, you get all the other perks, and just on top of that, you get this. So go to statuscoup.com/fall. Let me type it. statuscoup.com/fall, and you will be able to sign up, and then just send us an email at info@statuscoup.com. The webpage I just linked has all the info there at statuscoup.com/fall on how to get that free swag. So also apologies for the lighting and stuff like that. This was very last minute, so I had to find some 3-point lighting that also fits in this very specific setup I have. If you guys are an old Status Coup member, you might have seen my setup tour / setting up my new computer and stuff like that, so you have an idea. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump in to the stories for today. So like I said, first up, we're going to talk about Abbot. So if you guys don't know, I live here in Texas, so I am not well versed, but I'm aware of some Texas politics and stuff like that. And so Greg Abbott has been very interesting how he's been dealing with COVID, in the sense that he doesn't really want to, he sort of wants to just push and get back to how things were, essentially. And nothing is more apparent of that than this right here, where he is now officially banned COVID-19 vaccine mandates by straight up any employer in the entire state. And this is interesting because, so to give you some perspective, just from a Texas perspective, living here, I live right next to one of the bigger hospitals in Texas, Scott and White, and their ICU has been filled for quite some time, or close to fill. It's been teetering, I think, on capacity for quite some time after the main initial COVID outbreak. It's been going back and forth here in Texas. And here in Texas, even though I'm not too far away from Austin, which Austin is basically like a mini California inside of Texas for people unfamiliar with Texas, but even me being relatively close to that, if you came to Texas right now, you would not be able to tell that there was a pandemic going on. If you go to a store and everything, nobody, as soon as the mask mandate dropped, everybody's mask dropped. My favorite place to shop, HEB, I go there to shop now, and I still wear my mask just because it never bothered me. And I noticed after I was wearing my mask for COVID, I stopped getting things like just a normal cold and stuff like that as often as I used to before. So I was like, I'm just going to keep doing that. But because of this is why things like just leadership direction, stuff like that is very important. Jordan has talked about like Biden being like, oh man, I wish there was something I could do, but I'm just the president. So I'm just going to sit here and I can't really pressure anyone, but just you giving a direction and saying, this is what I want, influences public opinion. If I can guarantee if Greg Abbott was not so nonchalant about masks and vaccines and stuff like that, that more people would be wearing those masks. But specifically here in Texas, it's basically just me and whoever I'm with wearing a mask when we go into stores and stuff like that. So that you can see how that translates to this new policy of now this banning of vaccine mandates everywhere, which is interesting because Texas and Abbott specifically has always been about the small government. Yet with things like this is literally big government telling what individual private employers can and can't do, which they've always been able to do this as far as in certain professions and stuff like that. You're required a certain vaccines and stuff in order to participate, most notably things like the military and stuff like that. So this is just a separate mandate that certain businesses may or may not have because it's another vaccine. But we got our big government, big government in here in Texas. And this also includes state entities. So a little bit of a story I'll give. Also, real quick, I'll real quick say thanks to Double K for the $20 super chat. I really appreciate that. Double K actually does super chats quite a bit, so really appreciate that help. If you guys want to support the stream, you also can do that with a super chat or becoming a YouTube member, which you can do in the same area as a super chat. YouTube member is a little bit different than a regular membership, but you do get cool emojis. You don't have to worry about chat being slowed down for you and various other things. But like before I came to solely work for Status Coup, which I've earlier this year, my previous job was under a state thing, essentially, because I was working for a school. And even at that level, when COVID initially hit and was its strongest, there was no minimum requirements for a school or anything like that. So the people in charge of wherever we were, the mandates as far as masks and sanitation and things like that was literally dependent on whoever was in charge, how much they believed COVID was a real thing, which, spoiler, I'm in Texas. So, and so I actually had to fight for quite literally months just to get proper safety and things like that at our facility. And so it's just, it's one of those things that I don't know you can really break out of in Texas for now, as long as the leadership continues to ride this weird line of wanting to have minimal government, so we can't have any of these safety programs. We can't for poor or disenfranchised people and stuff like that. But at the same time, having this power balance of having some of the most overreaching government mandates you can have and banning literally individual private mom and pop businesses on whether or not the employees they hire are vaccinated for COVID is pretty big overreach. And then obviously we had the whole recent thing where they're trying to overturn Roe v. Wade and stuff like that, and have some of the most restrictive abortion bans we've ever seen in the country in recent times and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an interesting time here in Texas. I just wanted to touch on that a little bit before the next topics, because those will be a bit longer. But it's just, I saw that while I was scrolling through stuff, and I just thought it's so weird. I talked to my friends here in Texas and stuff like that, and it's just it's so weird how the weird dichotomy of the different laws that you come across here in Texas. There's no consistency. It's basically subject to whatever the whims are of whoever happens to be in charge of laws, and whatever verbiage they can do to try and twist whatever they're doing to be small government, regardless of how much government it actually is at the end of the day. So yeah, so that's my quick side thing on Abbott. Yeah, most people, and I see Henry Gustav, my cousin in Texas, Texas hates Abbott. I don't really know that many people who like Abbott. I think that just our options are so small, even on the there's better Republicans. I feel like even if you're staying the Republican, there's plenty that are better, but we somehow end up with people like Abbott and Cruz. And on the Democrat side, the most progressive we can get is Beto to challenge them, which, don't get me wrong, there's my cat, in case anyone was wondering. Beto is miles better than like Cruz, but must have changed. Thanks for the $9.99 super chat. The Texas ban and employers mandating vaccines must mean that even healthcare workers don't have to be vaccinated, I assume. That is my assumption. I could be wrong. Oh, there goes my super professional 3-point lighting. But I know at the hospital right next to mine, the nurses actually had a protest against the vaccine mandate and stuff like that. So the nurses here in Texas might be a little different. So it might be one of those things where it's just no one is going to have to be required it. Give me 1 sec. My cat keeps knocking down my super fancy light. Okay, so moving on to the second story that I wanted to talk about, which is Biden. Let me pull that up here real quick. So I'll start with the newest part of the story, which is, as you guys probably heard, Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation issued by Joe Biden, who is the first U.S. president to do so. So on Friday, Joe Biden issued a proclamation commemorating Indigenous Peoples Day, becoming the first U.S. president to do so. And then it says contributions that Indigenous people have made throughout the history and public service. This is a statement Biden wrote. Is great. Today, we acknowledge the significant sacrifices made by Native peoples to this country and recognize their many ongoing contributions to this nation. He marked a chip, and this is the interesting part. When I first read this, so it says Biden also marked a change of course from previous administrations in his proclamation marking Columbus Day, which honors the explorer Christopher Columbus. In that proclamation, the president acknowledged the death and destruction wrought on Native communities. But the interesting thing, I think it's at the very bottom. Or maybe it's not. But the main thing that caught my guard when announced this was that it was cool. I'm actually very happy that we have an Indigenous Peoples Day, because at the minimum, it dedicates a day for like awareness to be raised on places, especially social media and stuff, so people can start become aware of things that they probably aren't about the U.S. atrocities in the forming of the America. But a couple of things I noticed from this. Firstly was the keeping of Columbus Day, which I thought was weird. I feel like we're to the point. Does everyone not know that Columbus is a terrible person? Like, even among his own people, like return back to his country and stuff, he was not considered a good guy. He was considered pretty bad. He's contributed to both the genocide of essentially of peoples, in addition to numerous other things that I won't get into right now. But it's definitely a good start. But that was the first thing that caught me off guard, was why do we still have Columbus Day? That's kind of weird. And when you think about it, it does kind of go in the trend of Biden and his things of nothing will fundamentally change. So this kind of follows that trend where saying something will not fundamentally change doesn't mean nothing will necessarily change. And I think that's part of that politician wordplay. So he's saying that he's bringing about this change by bringing Indigenous Peoples Day, but not any fundamental change, such as getting rid of Columbus Day, or such as, my slow internet, for example, loading this. I don't have slow internet, but for some reason this article is taking a second to load. Biden backs the oil sands pipeline project, which some of you might know of, as Line 3. And the Biden administration has defended a contentious pipeline project that would carry hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil through Minnesota's delicate watersheds, urging in a court brief that a challenge brought by local tribes and environmental groups be thrown out. The closely watched filing in federal court was the latest in a series of actions taken by the administration to back Trump-era approvals of oil and gas infrastructure, despite Biden's pledge to aggressively cut emissions because of climate change, yada, yada. And it's mostly talking about, I'm getting to where it talks about, here we go. Indigenous groups have also been trying to flex newfound political clout. Native Americans, like the Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, now hold important positions within Biden administration and have said they intend to hold him accountable on his promises on racial equity, particularly for tribal communities. So we have example number one, which is, let me real quick pull up the chat here so I'm not missing anything from you guys. I'm multitasking here, so I apologize if I'm slow in transitioning from thing to thing. But so we have our instance number one, which is Line 3. He still is backing it, which is something that Native Americans have been extremely vocal from day one, but conveniently, when it comes to actually listening to them, he votes to continue and throw out any sort of anything to the contrary that might inhibit the creation of this scene, which breaks his promise about scaling back climate change. And he's not even willing to spend enough money on climate change, as we can see with the current battle with the reconciliation bill and stuff like that. But even like meaningful action that technically wouldn't cost the government any money, it would cost them money, and it costs maybe individuals money because they're donors and stuff like that. But blocking line 3 is something that he could substantially do in addition to the Indigenous Peoples Day to really nail home that I am here, I'm listening to the Native American community. And yeah. We'll continue on reading this. We are extremely disappointed that the Biden administration continues the Trump administration's policy of ignoring tribal rights, environmental justice, and climate concerns in favor of fossil fuel industry profits. Mani Nasmith of the environmental legal organization Earth Justice said, if the president is genuine in his pledge to take climate justice and tribal rights seriously, his administration must stop defending the Trump administration's decision. So that's literally direct. If you support tribal rights, you need to stop this pipeline. And so this whole thing happened June 24th, and the Declaration of Indigenous Peoples Day was Friday, so 4 days ago. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 days ago, October 8th or what have you. So literally, was that 3 months? In just 3 months, you can see that sort of starker contrast. And then moving on to another thing, you guys are probably familiar with this one, but Biden administration will not shut down Dakota Access Pipeline during environmental review, the DOJ lawyer tells court. The Biden administration will not shut down the controversial Dakota Access Pipeline while environmental review is conducted, a blow to the environmental and tribal groups that have rallied against the project for years. When was this? Oh, it didn't say the date, but it's sometime in the past couple months, I believe. Government attorney Ben Schiffman told a federal judge on Friday that the Army Corps of Engineers, which handles permits for the pipeline, is essentially in a continuous process of evaluating and gathering information. An attorney representing the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, which has been challenging the pipeline, said he is deeply disappointed. The company gets to keep the benefits of operating the pipeline that was never properly authorized, while the community has to bear the risks, said attorney John Hosselman. It's not right. It's a continuation of a terrible history. The Biden administration has been under enormous pressure from the pipeline's opponents to reverse the Trump administration's support of the project. A federal judge had put on hold further proceedings while the new administration got up to speed. So, and also, if you guys don't know, the project goes through the Missouri River as well as indigenous people's lands, and I believe it went through sacred burial sites and different things like that. And so, if you guys remember, this was a huge thing that Jordan covered back in the day with police committing violence against protesters, illegally putting the pipeline through in certain areas. They were I believe they had waited for the environmental review and it started before that. And so they had drones. Certain people had drones basically checking on the progress of the pipeline, and they found that it was still in certain times being under construction, even when they were told not to. So this company has repeatedly not only gone against law, but the whole thing is against trees with tribal lands, the entire land inside of the Dakota Access pipeline that was negotiated, not the entire land, but the lands, some of the lands that went through was negotiated and to be under the control of tribal leaders, and they just completely ignore that to go through with this. And so you would think the absolute easiest thing that Biden could do is just say, hey, these two pipelines, especially pipelines that have, and I don't know why I stopped this up, especially pipelines that have gone through native land, let's at minimum pause them and get a review through. And Biden could say during that time, I'm going to listen to leaders from these different lands and get their perspective and see if he could even be all politician about it and see, be like, can we get a compromise or something like that? But unfortunately, he's just he's done. I bet you anything, he's declared Indigenous Peoples Day, and now for the rest of his first term here, this is the big thing he's doing for Native Americans, and then he's probably going to be done for now. He's going to, if anyone brings up his support about it, about these pipeline projects and stuff like that, or anything like that, or questions his support for Indigenous people in their lands, then he's going to be like, hey, I did Indigenous Peoples Day, which no other president has done before, which once again is cool. It's a good thing. But I'm afraid this is going to be, once again, nothing will fundamentally change, as we can see continuing with these pipelines. So yeah, that's sort of what I had on the Biden aspect of this. The last thing I'm going to talk about here, I'll talk about in just a sec, is the Activision Blizzard thing. But and that'll be a little bit longer than these two topics, because there's actually a decent amount to go through, especially because I want to make sure everyone has the gist of it, so that we're all caught up. But first, if you guys haven't, make sure that you smash that like button and share the stream on your social media if you have it. Once again, the more people that like and share the stream, the more people that will see it. As you have seen, probably both from our individual YouTube views and our streams, YouTube has been very interesting. I've been keeping a track because I learned some things that YouTube has told us. And Colin's cat is our secret moderator. Probably one of my cats. I have 3 cats, but yeah, you've noticed our views, and I was told some YouTube told Jordan and stuff like that, so I'm monitoring to see if that's true or not. And we'll actually, I told Jordan, I don't think he's realized this, but we can actually on YouTube do polls here. So here, let me do a poll. So we released 2 videos today. Did you get a notification? Oh, here's a poll actually. Let's do a quick poll. You guys, if you're in the chat, you can actually vote in this poll. And I just asked if you guys saw both videos that were released today, as far as did YouTube send you a notification? Assuming you are signed up for notifications. If you're not signed up, obviously you didn't get one. But if you guys go in chat, you can see that poll. And I'm curious what it is, because we were essentially told everyone should be getting, for today and yesterday, everyone should have gotten all of our video notifications yesterday and all of ours today. So I'll just be curious how this goes. 57% yes, 43% no. Today I got the notice, yes. I got 1 notification, not 2. Michael Cooper says, interesting. I got a text notification. Yeah, text notification. Also, if you guys are not signed up, make sure to sign up for our text notifications. StatusCoup.com/text. Where's my little bubble for that? Well, you guys get the cool image then. StatusCoup.com/text. It's completely free for you, and we just send you a text each time we go live. And that's it. It's pretty straightforward. It's a great way to get around YouTube, so that we know that we're letting you guys know. So 47% said yes and 53% no. Okay, this is actually good. I'll end the poll. I assume most people got in. I'm gonna let Jordan know that, to let YouTube know, because that's good. That's good to know. But yeah, I'll get back to the stories now. But yeah, smash the like button as we get into the last story here. So if you guys don't know, Activision Blizzard. So this is a gaming company. They're very big. Activision, they were mainly known for Call of Duty and stuff like that, and Blizzard was known for things like StarCraft, World of Warcraft, Overwatch. And back in 2008, Activision actually bought Blizzard, and so now they're known as Activision Blizzard. And they've been in some heat recently for essentially sexist and behavior around the office, including discrepancies in pay, how they treat women, different things like that. And it's pretty crazy when you get into it. And I want to cover this because specifically this is the newest thing. There, like, news just came out today about Activision Blizzard that I'll cover as well. But it's also a growing trend in the gaming industry, not necessarily a growing trend of this is starting to happen more in the gaming industry, but a growing trend of everyone starting to realize and maybe whistleblow on it more and actually take action about it. So we'll start with this. All, let me see if I can get to where I want to be. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the bullet points that IGN created this cool bullet point timeline of the events of the Activision Blizzard lawsuit and what led to it. I apologize, you won't be able to fully read this. I'll try to fix that maybe in post, but this is the best I could do. But so it started back in July 20th of this year, where the Activision Blizzard was sued by California over allegations of, quote, a frat boy culture and sexual harassment. This followed a 2-year investigation by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, alleging that the company fostered a frat boy culture in which female employees were subjected to unequal pay and sexual harassment. Female employees of all levels were impacted by this, and that leadership failed to do anything about it. And I'll tie this back to how sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. This sort of what I'm going over, this frat boy culture and everything like that, you'll find that this is actually a theme in other game industries and stuff like that. Like, this is just a normal theme that gets constantly done, and it doesn't help that the gaming industry consumers, at least the vocal ones, especially in the comment section and stuff, approve of this type of thing. This frat boy culture was seen in male employees drinking copious amounts of alcohol as they made their way through cubicles to often engage in inappropriate behavior towards female employees. So you literally just have dudes drinking on the job and then harassing female employees. But the biggest one was one particular incident cited in the lawsuit. It involves a female employee who was already subjected to intense sexual harassment at the company, committing suicide during a work trip with a male supervisor who allegedly brought inappropriate sexual items with him on their trip. So that was insane. When I initially read that, I was like, you literally have a company that sexual harassment was so prevalent and so intense that it continued on work trips to the point where someone actually committed suicide. That is absolute insanity. Also, a source who has since departed Blizzard told IGN another story about how the room designated for breastfeeding did not have locks. So men who would walk into the breastfeeding room, and there was no way to lock the door. They would just stare, and I would have to, referring to the person who's telling the story, I would have to scream at them to leave. And then part of the lawsuit is just asking them to comply with workplace standards. That's part of the lawsuit, is just to bring their stuff up to date. The following day, Blizzard released a statement in response to the lawsuit, where they called where they said they were sickened by the let me take back for a sec. The Activision Blizzard essentially accused California of rushing to file an inaccurate complaint and failing to have good faith discussion with us to better understand and to resolve any claims or concerns before going to litigation. We are sickened by the reprehensible conduct of the California agency to drag into the complaint the tragic suicide of an employee whose passing has no bearing whatsoever on this case, and with no regard for her grieving family, Activision Blizzard wrote. While we find this behavior to be disgraceful and unprofessional, it is unfortunately an example of how they have conducted themselves throughout the course of their investigation. It is this type of irresponsible behavior from unaccountable state bureaucrats that are driving many of the state's best businesses out of California. So literally just slyly saying, hey, because you brought up our sexual harassment, how that literally drove a person to suicide, that's why people are leaving. And almost it feels like hinting like, hey, maybe we'll leave you if you guys keep this up, in response to this. This was literally a day after that they said this. This response led to over 2,000 former and current Activision Blizzard employees signing an internal letter criticizing the company's public statement regarding the lawsuit, saying the response was abhorrent and insulting, and that the employees no longer trust that the company's leaders will place employee safety above their own interests. So that was just the day after. Silence and violence. The comic industry is sexist too. Most female characters are overly sexualized. Yes, I agree. And also very sexist in their practices too, especially way back in the day. If you look into it, as pretty interesting. And also comic book movies. I'm a big fan of nerdy movies, as you guys can tell, and comic book movies. But it took until like on Marvel's side, they didn't even have a female movie until Captain Marvel, DC, until Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman was their first female director, at least for that particular bubble and stuff like that. So there's a long way to go with some of the stuff. The day after that, though, the Blizzard president, Jay Allen Brack, emailed staff at the company to address the lawsuit. And he called the reported behavior from the lawsuit completely unacceptable and promising to discuss issues with employees, which is complete opposite from the statement that was done the day before, implying that that might be correct, what Blizzard had initially, or not what Blizzard, but California initially said. And here's where we get interesting, to where Bush indirectly comes involved. Activision Blizzard executive and former Homeland Security advisor to George W. Bush sent a very different type of letter to the internal Blizzard staff, which sounded much different by the one sent by Jay Allen Brack. She claimed the lawsuit presented a distorted and untrue picture of our company, including factually incorrect, old, and out-of-context stories, some from more than a decade ago, which, once again, she doesn't actually address any of the specifics of anything, just generalize, hey, some of these are factually incorrect. I won't state which facts are incorrect, but, some of them are old, which from more than a decade ago, which to me says less about, hey, that's old, why are they just now coming out or whatever, and more like, oh, geez, has this been going on for a long time? This sounds like this might have been something that might go back a decade, because you've had this frat boy culture for maybe give or take a decade. Considering you're acquired by Activision in 2008, that means that these harassment probably started 3 years after that takeover by and becoming basically a very large company. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. And she also said that the egregious actions of others, or she says that the claims are truly meritless, and this is an irresponsible lawsuit. But yeah, so we'll and then moving on, we had a couple days later, we had former Blizzard executives apologize for failing employees. As some of them were like, hey, this wasn't here when I was there, and when I left, and they're like, this is genuinely sad that this is what it's come to. It's hard to tell when this started, if maybe it started while some of these people were in charge or not, but you can take that as it may. And for any nerds who play, like I don't play World of Warcraft, but anyone who does, they had to pause work on the game while they deal with this lawsuit. And they have to, right now they're going through, because some characters and instances and stuff in World of Warcraft were named after some of these people that are being accused of sexual harassment. So they've been going through getting rid of some of those. And you can see that, and basically you could jump forward to basically now they're doing damage control from their original statement, and basically saying, oh, we're so sorry about that. That's not what we meant. And yeah, so I'll real quick skip to the end here, because there's a lot. But the main thing is, one, that they're in the process of this suit, being sued. The news that came out today is they're having a little bit of trouble, because the lawyers that were involved in suing Activision Blizzard previously worked for a separate, I believe, entity that had ties to something else. And so it's a whole thing. But like going on for this exact same government organization in California, the accuses now Riot of misleading employees about the right to speak up. And so this goes to a separate issue, but Riot is a separate company now, also a game company, and they make League of Legends, Valorant, among others. And they're one of the largest gaming companies out there. But California Department of Fair Employment and Housing said that Riot Games has failed to inform its employees of the right to speak to the government about instances of harassment and discrimination. So how I had mentioned, once you understand what's happening in one of these game industry companies, you start to understand what's happening in all of them, which is very similar things, because if you follow games and the game industry at all, you'll notice that a lot of people from this company, they don't always stay there very long. They'll go and then move to this company, and then this person from this other company will move over here. There's a lot of cross-pollination. So the culture, if the culture is like this, and nothing was said about too much about it publicly out of fear or whatever else it might be, imagine what's being said everywhere else that hasn't come out yet, is essentially how I would put it. In a press release, they said that they're suing, or they stated that it has asked the courts to compel Riot Games is compliance with the court's June 4th order requiring the company to send notice to its workers about their rights to speak with them, which they still haven't done. In 2018, an investigation by Kotaku, which Kotaku, if you're interested in this side of games, as far as like the corruption and crazy stuff like that, Kotaku usually does really good reports, very trustworthy. They revealed Riot Games fostered an environment in which female employees were harassed, belittled, and passed up for promotion. In November, one current and former employee filed a class action lawsuit accusing Riot Games of gender-based discrimination. They settled that lawsuit, paying $10 million to current and former female employees who worked at the company from 2014 to 2019. The CEO was accused of harassing a female executive assistant, but the special task force charged with investigating the claim found no evidence of wrongdoing. So essentially, it's all part of this one investigation, and Riot hasn't even done the initial step of just sending out a quick email to everyone saying, hey, you're able to talk to this group and stuff like that. Because probably they're afraid of what will come out, because they probably foster an identical environment to everyone else in Activision Blizzard and others in the gaming industry. I'm totally blanking on the others, but there's been, in the past couple of years, there's been a slew of things coming out. Rooster Teeth was another one, not for sexual harassment, but for work crunch, which is a big one among the gaming industry, where crunch is just a normal thing that people working in the gaming industry do, which is when you work for extended periods of time until a game is done, regardless of personal health and stuff like that. So it extends to every aspect of the industry. And until unions and stuff start making their way into the industry, it might honestly not change too much. I've seen some calls for unionization, but up until this point, as far as I'm aware, there's been no unionization inside of the gaming industry, which has led to sort of this devolving into frat boy culture among all the institutes. But yeah. Designer Dave, worst was Ubisoft. I don't actually fully remember what happened to Ubisoft, but that sounds about right. I don't think I play that many Ubisoft games, so it makes sense why I might not have heard all of it. But like, I know when some of this stuff came out with Activision Blizzard, a lot of the game industry was boycotting it, not logging in. I think that's over now, but I know I personally haven't logged into it since all this happened, just because feels kind of bad, especially with how bad everything was in that culture. But yeah, that's about all I had to go over for today. I apologize if this is a slower or more off stream than you guys are used to. Like I said, this is my first time doing this, and it was a little last minute, but I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves here. A little bit of a lower turnout, but what can you expect with YouTube at this point? Honestly, just glad that YouTube's still allowing people to see that our stream is live so they can come view it. But make sure you sign up on our other platforms as well. Like we can catch us on Rockfin and Twitch and stuff like that as well. But the biggest thing is signing up for text alerts, because that's the best way to make sure that you get notified. StatusCoup.com/text. It's completely free for you, and it's just a way to bypass YouTube's insanity, essentially. And also, if you guys are not a member, make sure you go visit StatusCoup.com/fall to become a member, and also get a free shirt or sweatshirt or card or something, depending on what level you sign up for. We actually have some pretty cool stuff coming out for members, possibly this week. I don't know if I'm going to say anything about it, so I won't. But I've been working on something today and yesterday, and Jen has been working as well for members. So there'll be some cool stuff coming, I think. We'll be able to have some more options of cool things we'll be able to offer members. But yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for joining and putting up with me while I was here. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.